I'm Vegas Runner, here with our special guest this week, Philly Godfather, who's been in Vegas for a couple days. And after doing a few videos on some handicapping concepts, we're going to break down some money management ahead. But before we do, everyone's excited about the upcoming NFL season. So let's get straight to it with some season win totals. Let's talk about what the wise guys think. Let's talk about what the moves have been. Let's talk about what myself and Philly Godfather are thinking. Your boys in Philly are watching as we speak. They'll be excited to see these videos. Shout outs to everybody back in Philly. And let's start off right there with Fatty's Eagles. Start off with Fatty's Eagles.
Man, I mean, the Eagles, they've made the biggest commitment to going to the Super Bowl. They've made the biggest acquisitions from Nnamdi Asomugha to Ronnie Brown, Cullen Jenkins, Jason Babin. I mean, this team is dangerous.
They are, and they're even being referred to as the dream team.
Yeah, which isn't a good thing, but...
You know, I know guys back in Philly
I don't want no one
talking
to jinx them.
to friends of ours.
Right.
You know, your Harrises of the world, your Cooges of the world. They're excited. They're all saying Philly, 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 and I love it. You know, being from Philly, I love the excitement. And it's like breeding, you know, winning breeds winning. Right. The Phillies, you know, have built a franchise, and it just seems to carry over,
It's
man.
good karma, man.
You know,
good
it
karma.
carries over, and I think there's that competition. Yeah. And you're seeing the Eagles have went out, they stepped up and said, we're going to try to win the Super Bowl. Anything less than a Super Bowl appearance, I believe, will be a disappointment, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Man.
Now, let's get to season win totals. Bottom line is this, from what I've gathered out here and what you've been telling me is, although we're seeing line moves, truth of the matter is, it doesn't take a lot of money to adjust season win totals.
Right.
The books aren't all that confident in their number.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty this year.
Exactly. The lockout, you know, free agency, you know, just new offensive coordinators not having the time they'd usually have, defensive coordinators not having the time they'd usually have.
It takes a lot of time for these teams to actually gel and mesh together. So early on, if you're looking to bet some dogs, you might make some money.
I agree.
These teams ain't ready.
I agree. And I've seen, although, you know, sharp money is always going to look to try to exploit the market, so they're always going to step up to the betting window and try to find an edge. And they've done that with the season win totals. But what I'm trying to stress is this. It doesn't take a ton of money to move these numbers, because bottom line is the books don't have that much confidence in these numbers. Nothing supports that more than the fact of the moves we're seeing. Simply put, you know, some may think out there that a line like the Cincinnati Bengals, which opened 7 and is as low as 5.5 at some offshore books, that's a 1.5 game difference. You would think that takes, you know, tons of money. And from what I've gathered, it really hasn't. It's just taken some of the sharper bettors out there to step up to the window and make a max play bet.
That's it.
On the under.
Right. I mean, they have no quarterback, so they really have no future. Teams with no quarterback, Miami Dolphins, Cincinnati Bengals, Washington Redskins, they're all teams on the decline. They're all numbers that have dropped.
All them numbers, that's what I'm just saying. You just said Miami Dolphins, Cincinnati Bengals, Washington Redskins. We've seen all those unders move. And
there's a common denominator there.
We all know bettor's bias, just like it's to bet favorites and to bet overs and totals. It's also to bet over with season win totals.
Right, exactly.
Because you get to cheer more or less the whole season, meaning if you got an over 5, over 6, over 7.
You're thinking you got a shot.
Even if your team starts out 0-4.
You got a shot.
You're not throwing that ticket away, you know. Just like, you know, you got an over 41 and it's, you know, 3-3 at Monday night at halftime. You're not going to toss that ticket in the trash just yet. Nope. And I think that fact alone forces odds makers to skew these totals, you know, up a little bit. You know what I mean? And I saw that, I believe, you know, each and every year that I've been looking at season win totals, because they know the bettor's bias is to the overs. And even though wise guys don't think that way, and most of the moves have been to the under, now the betting public is getting their shot at these games.
Right. I mean, there's one team, the Rams, who I think are on an upswing. They've signed Harvey Dahl. They re-signed him. They brought in Quentin Michael. They brought in linebacker Zach Diles and a big wide receiver, Sims Walker. And you got Sam Bradford back there. He's a hell of a quarterback. So I like the over right there with the Rams. I think they might have a chance of winning the division.
And another team, the Arizona Cardinals,
Absolutely.
that was one of the games, one of the season win totals, excuse me, that got bet up. Whether there's...
They brought in a quarterback.
Exactly.
If you got a quarterback, you got a future. If you don't, look at the under.
And that was a case of them actually, the Sharps actually thinking that there was some value there. That wasn't to try to get ahead of the marketplace.
No, there's definitely value there. I mean, when you bring him in, and even though he's a question mark, there's a lot of uncertainty around Cobb. I mean, you know, he's a hell of a quarterback, man. I think he's going to help that team out.
Let's get to the big teams. Your Green Bay Packers, your New England Patriots, Baltimore, Steelers. These are all hovering around 11 and a half.
I can't see no value there. I mean, they're right there. Those numbers are right there. I mean, you're taking a chance by betting the over or the under on any of those teams.
And I believe you'll have some 13-3 teams out there. You may have, you know, and you'll definitely get some 12-4.
The reason why
there's very little room for error.
Right. Well, the reason why I think there's going to be less wins is because of the way the season has played out. They haven't practiced. They haven't had time to gel. They haven't had time to mesh. So there's going to be a lot of upsets early, and that's going to negate a lot of the wins that some of these better teams are going to have because they haven't had time to mesh. So 13-3, 14-2, I don't think there's going to be a lot of teams winning.
And you've seen that. You've seen the Baltimore total, you know, it stayed at 11, but the VIG's going under. The Steelers, the VIG's going under. Atlanta, the VIG's adjusted under. The Colts, the VIG's adjusted under. Right. You know, these are teams that are expected to compete, you know, for a possible Super Bowl. Definitely should make the playoffs, and yet sharp money is saying there's not a lot of value.
We're holding off. I mean, even the Patriots, they acquired Albert Hainsworth, Chad Ochocinco, but that line hasn't moved. You know what I mean? And they're major acquisitions. That should have made the team better. That team won 14 games last year, but you know what? It's still 11 and a half.
Another surprise, the New York Jets, a team you like, a team you bet already.
I bet them.
You made 2 future bets. Let's hear them.
I took the Jets at 13-1, and we took the Eagles as soon as it opened up because we heard that they were going to make a lot of big moves, but we didn't expect all those moves, and both those lines have dropped. Value bets are good.
And the weaker NFC East division, you thought they were going to win the division.
Yeah, the Giants are on a decline. The Washington Redskins are just horrible. And the Cowboys are just, you don't know what you're going to get with them.
So there you have it. I really think that, you know, there was some value there with the Eagles at 20-1. I think now, you know, it's one of those Miami Heat moments.
I'm just hoping that, you know, all this.
Is there really value left after it's been adjusted that much? I don't think there is. This team does look primed for a big run, but with that said, it was at 20-1 at one point, you know, and now it's hovering around, you know, plus 600.
Yeah, I think it's 6-1 down to 6-1. The other day I seen it at 9-2, but I think it moved back up. So I mean, they got a hell of a team, and I mean, if you think about it, last year, if Vic doesn't throw that pass, throws it on the outside instead of the inside.
They had a chance to beat. Yeah, they had the ball at the end.
They missed 2 field goals.
Akers missed 2 field goals.
And Green Bay went on to win, you know, the whole thing. So I mean, they got a good team.
And what I've noticed a lot with these season win totals, other than the fact that we're seeing, you know, most of the sharp money went to the unders right away, and there hasn't been enough public money the other way to make any real adjustments to the other side. But books seem to adjust the VIG, but not really. They're not scared to move off of a number, meaning they'll go from 7 wins down to 6.5. They'll go from 7.5 down to 7. That tells me they don't have all that confidence in these numbers.
No. I mean, how could you? No one knows what's really going on. I mean, the way the season is shaping up, I mean, you really don't have a clue about what's going to happen early. They're worried about early. Later on, the good teams are going to start meshing and gelling, so they're going to start, you know, doing what they're supposed to. But early on, I mean, these guys, you know, they're very uncertain.
So even though they're not taking the biggest bets on these season win totals, the bottom line is the uncertainty of the lockout. We don't have much data to go on. You know, how do coaches, how do certain teams, what usually happens based
players,
on a lockout.
Right, and there's a lot of new players, a lot of new faces on these teams that haven't played with these teams. So they got to learn all the plays, the system. I mean, it's going to take a while for these guys to get it together.
I agree. And I think a lot of the value has already been extracted from the season over-under, you know, market. I think it's a good guideline, and I really think every sports bettor, every sports handicapper should see how the sharp money bet these season win totals to help gauge their expectations for the upcoming season. With that said, I wouldn't draw too many conclusions, and here's why. A lot of these bets are opportunities to earn. Simply stating, what happens is this: by betting a certain win total, you can have an opportunity later in the season to earn off that bet by simply hedging it. Meaning, if I bet, over 10 wins, and the team is at, 8-2, I could simply, if I look ahead in the schedule and I see down the road, I expect them to be favored the last, 5-6 weeks of the season, you could just start jumping on the other side.
Yeah,
you could simply start taking the dog with the points.
Guarantee you some money.
And it's guarantee yourself some money. So, don't automatically draw conclusions based on these moves, but at the same time respect them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's funny we're talking about win totals because we were at the Mandalay the other day and we ran into the all-time hits king. And that's the first thing he talked
Pete Rose,
about.
yeah. We bumped into Pete Rose, and that's what he started saying.
Yeah,
and his exact quote:
"The Bengals.
The Bengals. This team, I can't see 4 wins on their schedule. Isn't that exactly what he said?"
It's funny, man. It's funny. Yeah.
And he was saying, it was trying to uncover what we thought would be the effect of the lockout. And
he was asking a lot of questions.
Betting related.
Betting related. I mean, I don't know if he's still betting or not, but
to each his own.
He's still asking a lot of questions.
To each his own.
Right,
Yeah. Charlie Hustle.
Asking Vegas runner and Philly Godfather who's going to win the Super Bowl.
The Cincinnati Reds, whether the Cincinnati Bengals are capable of winning 4 games.
I think I told him Jets, Ravens, and Eagles, Saints, and he jumped all over that.
All right, so you got Philly Godfathers, 2 future bets, AFC Jets, NFC Eagles. Real quick, some of the bigger moves in the NFL on season win totals were Atlanta Falcons under, Chicago Bears under, New York Giants under, Tampa Bay under, Miami Dolphins under, Bengals, like Pete said, under.
Way under.
Way
I
under.
think the Seahawks went under too.
Redskins under, and when it looks to the over, it looks like Arizona, Carolina, and
Minnesota.
Possibly the Cleveland Browns in Minnesota.
Yeah. And look out for the 49ers. They got a shot too.
Enjoy the upcoming preseason. See if you could find some value in season win totals. But before you know it, it'll be point spreads and nothing more from then on. I'm Vegas Runner. That's Philly Godfather. We'll be back with some money management in our next video.